Okay, welcome back to the For the Property Investor podcast. Here with another special guest on our expert series interviews with another buyer's agent, Chris Clarke.
Hello, nice to meet you. Nice to be here, I should say.
Yes,
Not me, you've
we've
met
met
many
several
times.
times before, but Chris, thanks for coming on and having a chat with me today. It's we
Yep.
love buyers agents here. We talk to a lot. We talk to a lot of them, but it would be
We multiply, as they say in the Matrix, we multiply.
yeah, I know. You just have to. It's a bit like that Gremlins movie. You just pour water
Oh, yeah,
on.
the Gremlins,
Yeah. That's showing my age there, though.
No, well, I'm in the same era, my friend. No, look, I think, even just talking about that, when I joined 2.5 years ago, and I think there was some sort of stat like there's 3,000 buyers agents. I think I saw something the other day about there's 3,800 buyers agents. So in 2 years, what's that, an extra sort of 25% more,
Yeah, it's
if not
huge.
more.
The rise of the buyer's agent has been absolutely huge over the last 5 to 10 years, but especially the last 5.
I've seen a lot in that short space. I've seen people I started off with come and go, and then I've seen some of them go strength to strength, and I'm a bit, I wouldn't say jealous, I'd say envious of what they've done. But I also so pretty confident I'm ahead of quite a few as well. So interesting as everyone sort of finds their feet and how to make this work.
Yeah. So, well, tell us how did you get a start and why?
How do I get the start? Good question. So that's a very political response. It's a nice little buffer in there. No, the simple thing was, when was it? Middle of 2021. I'd been in recruitment as an associate director for Michael Page for 12 years.
Okay.
Definitely done my pound of flesh with them. Although they earned that from me, and I earned some coin on the side. From Melbourne to Sydney, to spent 4 years in Singapore, then a few years back here in Sydney again. But I was really, no offense to them, I was just ready for a bigger challenge and something different, to really spread my wings. And my brother, who's a buyer's agent, he's now formed settler buyer's agent up in Brisbane. And I was just speaking to him one day. I remember it was August, and we're just chatting away. And he just said, why don't you, I was thinking about, should I become a life coach? Should I do something sort of HR? And he said, you can become a buyer's agent. So, no way. I haven't got that extra, even though I bought and sold properties myself.
Yeah.
Very different to doing it for others. But the synergy with recruitment is frighteningly similar.
Yeah.
That's what really stood out to me. Yeah. Instead of having a candidate, I'll sort of explain. Instead of a candidate looking for a job in a location with a certain amount of money, you have a person looking for a house in a certain location, wanting to spend a certain amount of money.
Okay. Yeah.
And you get to know, same thing, you get to know are they married? Do they have kids? Are they separated? Do they have dogs, cats? In recruitment, you get to know all that. So a lot of the questions I asked were actually very similar. So that's how I started, and initially got into join Universal Buyers Agents. They gave me a startup, down here, but they're a Brisbane sort of focused group. And then did a bit more than a year, and then my brother moved and set up his own firm. He was doing well, so it sort of just got to a point that it made sense. With Darren, who runs it, no bad blood, but it's sort of a bit awkward that my brother brought me in, then my brother left, and I was like, So I set up Clarke Buyers Agent, and thankfully the best next thing I could do after starting as a buyer's agent was going off my own that time. Not that I knew it then.
Great. And that was only 3 years ago?
Not even.
2.5.
Yeah, because even when I decided, obviously, got to go off and train and develop and license and things. So I literally started Clarke Buyers Agents on the 1st of April 2023.
Yeah.
And was with Universal Buyers Agents basically December 2021. So a lot's happened in a short space of time.
Oh well, it's always the best way. Jump 2 feet first. Yeah.
2 feet in, sometimes with cement around them, but yeah, we do the best we can.
And so what type of client do you specialize in looking after, and sort of locations and etc.?
Yeah, so I mean, I answer the second part. So location-wise, inner west, lower North Shore, eastern suburbs of Sydney. I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
The type of clients, look, I think more often than not, our clients reflect. I've always found our clients, reflect who we are. So I was married, I'm separated, I've got 2 kids, I've got a few grey hairs coming through. So typically my clients are married, separated, few grey hairs. I've done some first home buyers, but the thing I like to challenge people on is first home buyers, may have previously been the 21, 25-year-old. There's Sydney, the median house price of 1.4 or whatever it is these days, means a lot of my clients that have been first home buyers have actually been about the same age as myself, early
Yep.
40s, getting into the market. So helping them go through things in terms of helping them secure a property. A lot of them are looking for 1 year or 2 years. A lot of owner occupiers, probably about 80% finding a house for them to live in, and 20% in the more true investors.
Okay. And so those owner occupiers, it's like, explain what their journey's like to be able to get to the point of calling you. Is it like it might be more normal these days for them to maybe call a buyer's agent first, and have you seen that in the only 2.5 years that you've been going? Has there been a change in how their journey to get to you as a buyer's agent?
It's definitely overall improvement. Maybe that's also because my branding, I'm a bit more prominent, so people are coming to me. Me. I love my socials and LinkedIn and Instagram and all things in between. But still definitely find clients who, a lot of my clients come from referral partners. So a lot of times they're like,
Yeah.
oh, so
Okay.
and so, my solicitor or my mortgage broker said just to have a discussion with you, but I don't really get how this works. So a lot of education. A lot of the reasons those owner occupiers, probably the number one reason is they've been looking for a long time. And long
Okay.
time can be different for different people. Sometimes that's 3 months, sometimes that's 2 years.
Yeah.
Other times it's just they've had the heartbreak, they've missed out, on 2 or
Yeah.
3 properties. And I've got a couple that I would have purchased for that. Basically, are in a suburb or an area where there's really one really strong, prominent agent, and they just want somebody as an expert who can, effectively fight or negotiate with that really well represented agent in that area, because people are scared of it, which makes sense. We don't want to overpay. So sometimes I'm getting involved in terms of deals where it's like, Chris, basically I hired you to negotiate with her because I want to try and save as much as I can, and with your fee, I think we can save a lot more than what it's going to be at the end of the day.
Yeah. So is it have you got any stories of tough negotiations that you've had with sales agents?
Oh, plenty. Yeah, I've had some, and just one this week looking at a property last on Friday night, property in Waterloo. It's just one of those ones that we went through back and forth in terms of the property, with an agent pre-auction offer. So it means we're putting everything together beforehand. Probably won't go into the full details, but probably just some misalignment, I think, in terms of some of the rationale for the agent for why we needed to provide, a higher offer, seemed to, in subsequent conversations, change what was said previously. And in the end, even I'm a little bit hamstrung. There's only so much I can do. They've got the keys to the Porsche or the castle, and you're trying to read between the lines. And we do a lot of things where we do comparable sales, and we do,
Yeah.
we do inspections all the time on properties that are in the area. In the end, though, even if it's in that we go, look, at that property's worth 1.7 to 2 million. We obviously want to buy it at 1.7 ideally, but with
Yeah.
agents we end up paying 1.9. So it's still comfortable. It's still in our range what was comfortable. But
Yeah.
geez, I wish I got it 1.7. So yeah, that's probably a little story. There's plenty more to come.
All right. Are there any sales agents these days that just don't like or refuse to deal with buyers agents? Because it used to be the case, 10, and not even 10 years ago, but especially the sort of 10 plus years ago, there was these
Yeah.
cases of agents go, what? Buyer's agent? No, I'm not. Just send me your buyer. I'll deal with them direct.
It's a funny one. So I've purchased property in Bella Vista and Reeves. Not my, which I do from time to time. Not more where I want to be buying every single time, but that's fine. And there's definitely been times in the Reeves property calling up agents, and they didn't know what a buyer's agent was. So
Wow.
they were like, "Oh, but," even to the point of confusion around, "Well, who pays your fee, Chris?" And me having to explain to them, they were scared that they would have to pay some of their commission. Right? Everyone's got their self-interest. And sometimes if
Yeah.
an agent's not dealt with a buyer's agent in an area where there's not predominant buyer's agents, the fear is, oh, do I have to pay you part of my commission? Because I don't want to share that, which I get. So no,
And
not
you had that happen in Bella Vista?
in. No, that was in Revesby. Bella Vista's more
Oh,
mature.
Reevesy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bella Vista Walkermill's fine. But yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna
Revesby
say I'd
had
be surprised.
snow in and around that area. Yeah, they're a bit more.
Okay. Yeah.
The funny thing was when I first joined, as I said, I joined Universal Buyers Agent, which is Brisbane based. And so I sat up there one day listening to the guys and guys and girls and ladies there doing phone calls to certain agents to follow up. And they definitely had a couple of times, just in the one day, agents saying, "Oh, I'm not going to share with you this property. This is for investor stuff. I'm not going to share that property with you unless you guarantee that I get the listing from your investor back from you." Now, you and I both know there's no guarantee. Like, even if we buy a property, we can't guarantee that our buyer is going to use that same agent to
Oh,
manage the
for
property.
the property management.
Yeah, we're basically saying, I won't even give you the opportunity to buy this property. I'm not even going to tell you the details and the price, the guiding, unless you guarantee to me. And the Universal team said, well, no, that's not how we work, and had the phone slammed down from the agent to say, basically indicating, well, if you're not going to agree to that, I'm off the phone call. And that definitely was a shock. I haven't had that in Sydney at all, and I can talk comfortably about that. It's definitely never happened to me. But
Well,
Brisbane, which is not that far away.
yeah, I mean, as you know, we deal with work with a lot of buyers agents working with investors all over the country, and it's we get this feedback from buyers agents all the time. It's like, oh, we need to keep these relationships good with these sales agents, and it's just like,
Yeah.
because they're going to expect the property management back, and it's just like, well, that can be up to you and it's up to your client, but at the end of the day, it's up to the client of who they go with.
Look, I guess dovetailing onto that, I've had a few times with investors, we're trying to get a deal done, and I've said to my investor, hey, something we can give this agent to help us, get the vendor across the line is and follow through with, let's give them the property lease, at least for 12 months as
Yeah,
part of our negotiation. So, it's obviously not going to the vendor. So vendors, if you're listening to this, you might hate this and know this tactic's out there. But for my client, he's like, well, even if I pay a bit more for that agent to manage my property, I've got to pay an agent anyway for 12 months.
yeah,
There's some consistency there. The theory is after 12 months you move now, and how many people change an agent after 12 months? There is definitely a growing number, but most people are pretty
yeah,
lazy. You've got
yeah.
you've
Unless
got someone
something
doing an
goes
okay
wrong,
job. Yeah, something goes wrong, you don't get paid. That's probably the number one thing that
yeah,
could go wrong.
that's number one thing.
But so if my client, if we do that, and it's been rare, but if we do that, the theory is, look, after 12 months, you could change and move on. You can change in a shorter period of time, but 12 months seems fair. But I imagine most would be like, oh, well, set and forget. And if you've used that tactic to be able to secure the property, well, good luck to you.
And most sales agents these days, they don't really get anything back by making sure that the principal and the business owner keeps another management.
No,
Uh,
no, you really got to be dealing with an agent who is either the director of the
yeah,
company itself, or sometimes you still get agents where they're dovetailed next to the property manager. So I work this suburb, and the property manager sits next to me, and there's some form of link with their KPIs with each other. It does happen, very rare, but been a couple of times. And I always appreciate transparency and honesty. So
yeah,
I've had a
yeah.
few agents say to me, Chris, if I can get this rental role for him, we both will do better at our end of year review. I'm like, oh, okay, well, if that's obviously can't guarantee it, but I can talk to my client around, look, this could be advantageous for us during negotiation.
Yeah. Okay. So talking on this theme, this is a podcast for the property investor.
Yep.
It's so with you don't do a lot of investment buying, but you are predominantly in that sort of inner west, eastern suburbs, lower north shore of Sydney.
Yep. Yeah. So I think, with well, I know about 20% of my property. So if I buy, 5 properties, one of those is an investment property. So it's still a sizable-ish amount. You know,
Yeah. I mean, if you're buying in those areas, it's still a
oh,
big
it can
chunk
be
of money.
some lucrative, and we had one in Ashfield we purchased in November 2022,
Yeah.
and we conservatively and said 850 per week. We rented it out for 925.
Yeah.
Not we, but the property did. It
And
just
what
got
was the
rented out
purchase price on that?
1.6,
Okay.
1.6.
So
No,
it's
1.57, I think. It was right at
1.57.
the right time. It was the best time to buy, right? Because
Okay.
if you could go back in time, the best time to buy recently was November 2022. No one knew then, but statistically, particularly in Sydney. Anyway, long story short is the tenant recently moved out, and now it's been rented, I think, for 1,200 or
Yeah.
1,250. So in the space of 2
And
years,
what would it be worth now?
the property itself would be close to at least 1.9.
Okay. All right.
So you're
So
talking
so
sizable growth.
from a rental return point of view, from a yield point of view, if we looked at what 1,200 a week, you said?
12 minimum 1,200. It might be 1,200, 1,250, but let's say 1,200
All right. And you said about 1.9 it's worth?
currently. Yeah. But he purchased for 1.6. Yep.
That's still it's only a 3.3% yield,
Yeah,
gross yield.
but if you
So
use the percentage of when he purchased it,
yeah. But like even if we went back to that's based on what it's but when he first bought it,
and
it was like 900 a week, yeah,
correct, 925.
and then they were they bought it for what 1.6.
Let's say 1.6. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's even worse at a 2.9% return.
True.
Which is fairly typical return for sort of in a Sydney,
Correct.
and which I mean they're big numbers from a rental point of view, but what's the motivate? What I'm wanted to get at is what are the
Yeah.
motivations for investors to buy in the inner west, eastern suburbs, lower North Shore?
There's two. So if you look at those numbers, look at the capital growth. So in 2 years, it's gone up effectively $300,000, right? So
Yeah,
that's a sizable increase. Be able to
yeah,
pull equity out. So I think that's an attraction that'll always remain. I think any good chunk of my investor clients, why they're looking in Sydney is the idea that there's this confidence that, yes, Perth, we spoke before we started, so Perth's going crazy at the moment. Brisbane's still pulling up strong.
yeah,
Adelaide's coming back on. Sydney's just consistent, 10% up year on year,
yeah,
over the last 12 months anyway. So there's some confidence there, and I also talk to clients and say, when I lived in Singapore, I had a team of sort of 15 individuals under my team who were from anywhere, within Asia, original sort of where they grew up, China, Singapore, wherever, Malaysia, and speaking to them, about at least 10 out of 15, their retirement plan was Sydney. So the thing I think people have to understand is, compared to to some degree, to a Perth, to a Brisbane, even to a Melbourne, the attraction, like I've had clients from Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, look into Australia, and they look into Australia, but specifically Sydney.
yeah,
So is that one? And then the other part is, and you'll get a giggle out of this, is a good number of my investors, probably 50% of them, have been first-time investors.
yeah,
And first-time investors have a notion they want to buy nearby.
yeah.
It's very, and I challenge them. I say, you will never. They'll go, oh, I've seen breaks. I'll go around and check it. I'm like, that will never happen,
No,
ever.
yeah,
But I want to see it during inspection. Why?
Yeah.
Really the crux of this, you're buying a share, you're buying stock. Yes, it has bricks and mortar, but that's why you're involving a buyer's agent. That's why you have a building and pest inspector. That's why you have solicitors to make sure your stock, which is property, is good and healthy. And then you look at the numbers. How much are going to cost me? What's the yield as you've been calculating earlier on? Does it make sense? And what is the little asterisk? What is the potential chance or the likelihood of strong capital growth?
Yeah.
And if those numbers make sense, you're going to buy it.
So is that usually the one and only thing that you're looking at to be able to, I mean, obviously they'll have a budget of what they can buy, but is it pretty much looking at, how they can add value, or is there potential for quick capital growth on this property when you're looking at it for an investor in Sydney?
Yeah, probably a tale of two halves again. I know I'm splitting the questions every time, but
That's
it's probably
right.
a little bit, half of them looking at the rental yield. So day one, Chris, I need strong rental yield. The calculations you did before are accurate, but I'd say I've had some clients, they're looking at minimum 4%, which again, I know in other states you can get much higher than 4%, but 4% in Sydney, if you're doing 4-5%.
Yeah.
2 years ago, if you'd said you could get 4 or 5% to me in Sydney, I would have laughed. These days you can achieve it. But I think a lot of other ones are looking at that capital growth. So we purchased a property in Bexley. It's a two-bedroom semi. We've got renters in there straight away. Day one, no issue at all. My client used to live in Sydney. They now live in Brisbane. They regret selling their Sydney home because they've seen the growth.
Yeah.
So they've got back in. And basically, they got back in at the same price point of what they exited, but it's been 10 years' time. So they sold a 4-bedroom house, and 10 years later, with the same amount of money, they can buy a 2-bedroom semi.
Yeah.
But the plan with that is either do one or two things before they sell, and the kids might come down because the kids are getting close to sort of working years in life. Kids may come down for university, and during that time may renovate and extend and add the 3rd bedroom in, or that property will always have the potential of adding a 3rd bedroom. So whilst you're not going to do it, if you can identify a property and go, right, it's 2-bedroom, I'm buying at 2-bedroom prices, but I'm paying a little bit extra for the potential of a doing extension. Well, the same theory, even if you don't do that extension, when you go to sell in 10 years' time, someone's going to buy that 2-bedroom, pay a bit extra with the potential of converting it from a 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom. I don't have really answered yet, but I'd say it's either, there's definitely a yield basket there and a capital growth basket as well. But I challenge every client. I say to them, you can't have both. They can be very close to being even, but you've got to pick, is it capital growth or yield? And if they can't answer that, I would question if they're really ready to buy. You've got to be able to put one of those slightly or massively, but at least slightly ahead of the other one.
Especially in Sydney, because you're if you're looking at trying to achieve both in Sydney, it won't happen.
No.
You can buy high yielding properties, but you're going to forego potential capital growth. And vice versa. It's interesting. So in that sort of 10-15 k's radius that you work in of Sydney CBD, what are your starting price points for, let's start with units, just to give everyone an idea of Sydney prices. It's like if you want to buy a 2-bedroom unit, let's not even go to a 1-bedder. It's a 2-bedroom unit in Sydney within 10-15 k's.
So 2-bedroom unit we purchased last year in an older block in Summerhill, which is about 7-8 kilometres away from the city in the southwest direction. We got that for $818,000 with an investor that was through self-managed super fund. Already had tenants in the property. You're sort of looking anywhere. I'd say probably the cheapest 2-bedroom you can get would be sort of mid-7s.
But what I mean, are these like original condition, need work, or?
These are either tale of two halves. They're either the original, so they don't need work. They actually don't need work. Like with the old red brick, yes, you could renovate them, but if you're buying it just to hold, you don't need to do work. It's double brick. They're solid as day. Yeah, new carpet and things from time to time, but in essence, it's a solid long-term option, right? The
Yeah.
other ones are buying that the same sort of price range are the buyer beware ones. So they've been built in the last 5 years. Someone brought them with a plan for 800. They're for sale now for 750. Why? Maybe there's cracks in the basement, or the balconies are having to be replaced. There's some cladding issues. Doesn't mean you don't buy. Like I'd say, no, it doesn't mean you don't buy, but you need someone like me or a strata report consultant or someone, a solicitor who's happy to get into the details. Some of those strata reports can be 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
To be able to go through, because we've purchased a couple of those that have had works done the last 5 to 7 years, but we've also identified we're comfortable that the work's done, it's been done by people who we have high reputation on. They still can't sell for a premium because that work's been done, still tainted, but we are confident we're buying. It's like share, like talk about stock market, right? I feel like we've purchased at the bottom part of that property and it's going to go up.
Okay. Same question for houses. What's your sort of minimum price to get into the market?
Yeah, 1.3. Unless you're getting right out sort of, we talked about Reesby before, but even there, you're definitely spending 1.1. But typically 1.3 is probably your starting point.
And when you say a house for that price, I mean, like
I'm talking about mansion with a pool, with a helicopter land.
No. How big's the block of land? Yeah, how many bedrooms? And because there's some pretty small houses I've seen in the west of Sydney.
Yeah, so you're talking anywhere from block of land this might frighten you here on, but 60 square meter block of land with a 80 square meter property that's like a double, up to sort of, I'd say 180 block, maybe 200 if you start getting that 10 to 15k radius, might get something around that. You're probably looking mostly at a semi. So a semi means it's at least attached on one side. Might be a terrace attached on both sides, but that's assuming semi. So it's got one wall attached, and it's probably something like a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom with a car park.
Okay. And if you were to look at what most people would call a traditional detached house on a block of land that might have a bit of a front yard and backyard, 3-bedroom house minimum, what price point you're looking then?
I'd say, I would not say I'd know, 2.2, 2.3 and above. Maybe, I'm just trying to think, I don't want to mislead anyone. There's been a couple where it's freestanding homes, and let's say Erskineville, I'm just thinking one in particular, where it was under 2 million, it was freestanding, block was like 200 square meters. So that's not impossible to get into that, but it's more than likely going to start with a 2.
Yeah, it's no, interesting. So a lot of people ask, how do people get a start in the property market in Sydney because of these enormous prices? It's like, so when you're working with these first home buyers, which aren't in their 20s, they're more likely in their 30s or even 40s. What have they just been saving up a deposit for millions of years, and suddenly it's all happened? How are you finding that, and how can you give some advice to people asking this question? How did they get into the market?
No, exactly. I think it's there's sort of 2 obvious ways, and there's one a bit less obvious, right? And one that I wish we all were, but not everyone can be. So the 2 more obvious ones are what you talked about. So people have been saving for a long time. They've been renting, they're squirreling away what they can, slowly saving that deposit. And then combined with that is the second part where they've usually got the bank of mum and dad, or bank of, unfortunately, maybe inheritance or a loan from someone in the family. I've had a lot of those first home owners, probably about 30% have actually had parents pay for my whole fee. So it's almost like when my first property, I had parents guarantor the property. Not only do you need that and a loan, you might actually, to get in, you need a buyer's agent, get the elbows out and get through. So that's some scenario there where the parents are paying for that. And the other one is, people who self run their own businesses, right, effectively, or are high functioning sales individuals, right? So there is still that cluster of people that society can be jealous of, and the right career or so forth. that are in something, could be crypto, could be fintech, could be software sales, that,
Yeah.
oh, Chris, I'm earning, 250, 350,000, and you're looking at them, they're 27 years old, and you're like, wow, do you understand that most of my clients, they would be earning 80 to 130?
Yeah.
So then they're able to, because of that exponential increase, they're able to do things that others can't, and use that basket. They're not silly. Quite often, they've already got one or two investment properties they've purchased in a Perth and in a Brisbane, and are using the equity of that to then buy their home. Maybe they're now expecting kids, and so they've decided, look, let's park the investment, let's leverage the money, and let's utilize some of
Well,
that to get in.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is what I get from a lot of the other buyers agents who are focusing on looking after the investors buying across the country. That's like they're working with these clients to get them into the market with an investment property first, and it might be in other parts of the country. And they say, oh, their game plan is, to buy, try and buy a few properties for investment, get in and start building, so that when they get into their 30s and want to settle down, they've got something behind them, so they can help, leverage off that and get into an owner occupied where they want to live.
Yeah. I've had many clients.
You've seen that sort of back end part of the
Yeah, I've
scenario
seen
where
them
they've
transition,
used
right?
that.
And I've seen them at the beginning too, where they're contacting me saying, this is our first investment. Our plan is to have 10, and we're going to work towards the strategy of doing so. And I say to them, whether they're buying the first one or like you said, the back end there. But I say to them, the biggest, this sounds bad, but the biggest reason people don't get, if they want a magical 10 properties, which sounds obscene, but I think a lot of people who start off investment have that aim.
Yeah.
I say the number one factor that's going to hold you back is kids.
Yeah.
Because your income, typically one partner, the income comes down. You also got to feed them, you got to clothe them, you got to put a roof over their head. And particularly exactly what we're talking about now. So I sort of say to clients, go hard while you're young. Get the first, second, third, fourth, however many properties you can get. The equation may be when your kids are 3, 5, or whatever, you might sell one of those properties to then either afford life, to take the pressure off, or to buy your home. What a great solution you'll have at your hands if you've taken those steps.
Yeah.
You can look at it like it's a band-aid, but actually, at least you're prepared for the worst. You've got some properties you can go, I can sell that. I can spread the equity of what I've got across other ones, and then I can afford to live where I want to live. And then I might just bunker down for 10 years. And then when the kids are more likely, 15 and 18, I do get the other side. I get investors coming to me at that time. And they're going, oh, my kids now, one's at university, second one's almost about to, is in the HSC.
And they go, woohoo!
Yeah, and they're like, I can now get back. I
Time to
haven't
start
bought investment
investing
property
for
for 10
ourselves.
years. Yeah, I'm ready to begin again.
Great. Well, that's definitely a good conversation to have for us. It's not the typical one we've had, which is why I've been wanting to have this chat to really find out what's happening in that inner city Sydney market and working with buyers. Because I get asked a lot of the time. It's just like, how can people afford to buy in Sydney, especially as first home buyers? It's like crazy. It's just like so. Yeah, it's good to have that conversation. Chris, you mentioned earlier you're all over the socials. I see you on LinkedIn all the time, but you're on Insta as well. Now we'll certainly be posting on LinkedIn and a few of them, and we'll try to link you up. But is that the best place to find you?
Yeah, either anywhere you find me, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, it'll direct you back either to my phone number or my website. It's my business, it's something I'm really proud of. I've got, started to build a team beneath me, but whoever engages me, they get me the whole way through. It's not like, oh, okay, you sign up with Chris and now he's going to pass you to somebody else. You can have full confidence that if we do work together, it's going to be me the whole way through. So, yeah, the socials, typically website and phone number. Happy to connect, and always happy to have a chat.
That's all right. Well, if anyone can't find you, you can always reach out to us. Happy to put you in contact. And but wherever we're posting this, we'll try and link you up. So thanks for joining me again, Chris, and from Clarke Buyers Agents. And for everyone listening, thank you again. And watch out for the next episode coming out soon. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.